So I wanted to cover mostly where you see Keycard and Status kind of playing together. I know you've given probably a talk regarding Status overall, the chain, and kind of like the full stack. That's what I'm imagining you've been covering a lot of. So yeah, can you kind of cover a little bit where Keycard fits into this whole strategy for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. So Keycard is really built as open source wallet that it's a hardware wallet that is also air gapped, that is also stateless, meaning it doesn't have a memory of anything you did before. So it's really kind of a new way to build hardware wallets in a way that is verifiable entirely by the user. You don't have to trust us on anything. It's open source not only at the firmware level, but also at the hardware level, meaning if you want to create your own keycard, you can. So the way it fits into the whole Status stack. So yeah, as you mentioned, I've done a couple of presentations this week about the Status privacy stack. The idea is how can we give self-sovereign, how are we able to give a self-sovereign wallet that is open source to everyone and that is simple to use, that has a very kind of seamless UX, easy to hook into any chain really. It supports Bitcoin, it supports Ethereum, it supports Status network. So I think ultimately we want to have a deeper vertical integration between all of those different services that Status is running. So you have the Status app and wallets. So Keycard now has kind of first citizen support, but we want to even get more support along the way.
Keycards are amazing.
All right. So yeah, keycards are amazing because they tie very well into the Status stack, where at the app level, you can log in with your hot wallet, but you can also log in with your hardware wallet. And something I really like about Keycard is the way that you can use it through NFC.
Yeah.
So literally just like tapping to your phone, or you can use it with the full-fledged shell experience where you use it through QR codes. To be honest, like personally, I've been starting to use it regularly as my main hardware wallet, to be honest, because the QR code reading is so fast.
Yeah.
It's way faster to scan a QR code, get all the transaction payload straight on the screen, and then sign it, showcase the QR code, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And you compare that to a ledger, you compare that to a bunch of other alternatives on the market. Yeah, I think this is the best signing experience we can have at the moment. And also decodes like fully all the transactions. So for example, when you are using a multi-sig, you don't do blind signing. You already see what are you going to sign through. So I think this is very valuable. And this is very in line also with what we've been building at Status, is that kind of transparent way to interact with Ethereum and with the chains, where you want to have fully open source access. And this is also where Status network ties into that. So you have, first step is like Status app and wallets. Then to that you connect the hardware wallets. And where are you going to transact by default? You're going to transact on Status network. And why? I think for mainly 2 or 3 reasons. First one is because it's gasless. So you're going to be able to do anything, any smart contract interaction in a fully gasless way. Then you have the privacy layer, which is something that we really hope to have very good support into the Status app, so that you can basically use the Status app as a normal app.
Yeah.
But you will have the option every time you interact with a smart contract or with an app to interact through a privacy layer. So I think this is the big unlock. And yeah, with that, we are getting closer to the vision of that fully integrated privacy stack, where you're in charge of your own keys at the hardware wallet level, also at the app level, and you transact on a chain that also gives you access to privacy. And actually, gaslessness reinforces a lot privacy through gasless relayers, through noise creation. So you can basically have kind of bots that are just going to create a bunch of transactions.
Correct, yeah.
To maybe obfuscate some transactions that are going on with the privacy pool. You can also use gaslessness to have delayed execution. So you can say like I want to bridge to the chain, but then I want to like swap to a token. But instead of doing the swap now, you can do it in 1 week. And then by doing so, you can have a gasless relayer. Actually, a swap is not a good idea as an example because the price is going to change and you need to have kind of an intent mechanism and so on. No, like the simplest way would be you deposit into a lending protocol. So there is no like changing price. You just deposit into the lending protocol.
Yeah, correct.
At any point in time between 1 week and 2 weeks in the future.
Yeah. And so the APY really shouldn't shift much in that time frame. Anyway.
Exactly. And then you don't care when you interact with the smart contract, you just deposit. So gaslessness is going to enable those type of interactions, because ultimately all the privacy comes from the time spent in the pool. So if you just breach your chain and immediately make a swap, it's visible. People can track you. If you breach and then make your first on-chain transaction a week later, then it will have already been shielded enough so that it's somewhat private.
Yeah, correct. It's more like it's obfuscation through like not at rest, but like in transit. And then if you do it delayed enough, like it's hard to really pinpoint when it even initially got started.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what was interesting, two things that kind of stuck out to me. So I like the Keycard aspect of it. So I'm more familiar with the Bitcoin space in terms of like, that's where I got started. Are you familiar with Seed Signer? So it kind of reminded me of Seed Signer. So,
yes, definitely. It was actually heavily inspired.
Yeah. Seed Signer like in Cold Card, because it's
exactly.
Because so like something I think most people don't realize is that all these hardware wallets, for the most part, it has a seed inside of it. So even though it is like a Cold Card, for example, it's air gapped, but like your ledger or whatever, like it has that seed phrase.
Yes.
And then if you do the paper, then that's a second copy of your seed phrase. So now you have two things you have to worry about. One, that's the wallet you have yourself, and where you store the actual piece of paper. And when it's the same thing, basically, which is a card or like it's stateless, you can like remove like the software once it's like operating, essentially, like kind of like a seed signer. So with the shell, that's what I liked about it, is that it's like in the Java card itself, you know, and the shell itself, maybe I'm getting my terminology wrong. The card itself has it, and the shell is just like the shell, to interact with the card.
Yeah. The shell is stateless, and I think when the team started working on that, I was like, but that already exists. I've already seen that a couple of times, and what's the differentiator and so on. And I think the best demo that I got was we had a couple of shells, and it was like, okay, imagine you have a card and then you use your shell, all good, but then the shell breaks down because the battery is shit. Yeah. Well, first of all, good luck. And exactly, it's the Nokia battery, very basic. You can replace it right away. But now if the screens go like breaks, or if like any like the motherboard in the system just breaks down, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to lose everything? No, you're not losing anything. You can literally buy another one and use it straight away. It will not change a single thing to your normal flow. And for me, that was kind of the first unlock, to think, hey, hold on, actually, the device doesn't have any value here. The device is just an interface. Where the value is on the card. And the card, the cool thing is like it's a fully open source, but also it uses all the normal frameworks that bank cards are using, meaning that you can replicate it very cheaply and by yourself.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like I've been talking with the Keycard team about that for a while, but you might want to have your seed stored in other type of form factor. So the card is really practical and it's really stealth.
Yeah.
Stealthy, because you can have like a gym membership card. Well, it looks like it, but in reality, when you put it into a shell, suddenly that's exactly where your seed phrase is. And so that's crazy, because you can have like very good OPSEC just by using that. And I think this is already a big unlock. And this is something also we kind of want to push within Status, is to give people who care about their privacy, who care about their security, a bunch of tools that are all modular. So you're not forced to use everything together. When we launch Status L2, you will not be forced to use it if you use the Status app. But it will still be the kind of the default network where most of the activity will be directed to, because we will offer that kind of extra layer of privacy, and it will be integrated into the app, such as it makes sense for you as an app user to go there. And I think Keycard is kind of the same. We want to offer different ways to interact with Keycards and leave people the possibility to customize it as they want, and to really make it their own, so that it increases the level of security, because it's harder and harder to detect, like, hey, this is actually a crypto thing and maybe I should steal it.
Yeah. And then a quick clarification was, you guys didn't acquire the Keycard team, right? Keycard came from within already the Status team?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's correct.
Yeah, kind of like the way I like to think about it, like as I was going down the rabbit hole, is like the kind of like the Proton Mail suite, you know? Like you got the chain, the app, a messaging app on top of that. You know, like you're building a suite of like things that most crypto users want to, at some point will need. At some point you will need to pick a chain. At some point, you will need to pick a wallet. At some point, you will need to message someone else in Web3,
Yes,
you know?
and to store data, for example,
Correct.
also.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is really how, I mean, for context, this is how the whole ecosystem of Status and now Logos as well came up to life, is through the lens of we want to give people a crypto super app. Okay, cool. What do you need for that? Well, you need to have, if you want to make it very cypherpunk with like the least dependency possible, the least amount of trust assumptions, then suddenly you're forced to rethink the entire stack from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I want to, as you mentioned, message someone. What are you going to use? Well, Whisper didn't make it out of the white paper. I mean, yes, a bit, but not that much. So we needed to actually continue that mission and make it real, peer-to-peer, end-to-end encrypted, decentralized messaging protocol. That became Waku, and that is now used by Railgun, that is now used by Safe. There's like a couple of other projects in the space that are using Waku. And now Waku transitioned to be a critical part within the Logos stack. So Logos and Status are basically like sisters company or sister projects. They're all born within the same ecosystem. We all share a lot of resources together. And Logos is now positioning as a privacy-focused blockchain that is actually owning the whole stack, meaning you have the privacy layer that is an actual blockchain that is private only. There is no public state. Then on top of that, you have the messaging protocol, formerly known as Waku, now Logos messaging. And then on top of that, you have Logos storage, previously known as Codex. And Codex itself was kind of heavily inspired and directed from Swarm, from the original Ethereum white paper.
Okay.
So as you can see, like in the original Ethereum white paper, you already had all those ideas, but the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik and like everyone in the early Ethereum team decided to focus just on the chain because it was the most critical part. If the chain didn't work out, like it doesn't make sense to do messaging or storage.
Correct.
So what happened is like all the teams started to either fork out those projects or just like start working in that direction. And Logos was one of them. And the reason why that was so necessary is because the moment you start thinking about apps, then you need to have, it's a social apps. Okay, fine. So I need messaging.
Correct.
It's a social apps. People are going to want to share texts, pictures, maybe.
Yeah.
You need to store them as well, right? And so suddenly you start being like, all right, it's not just a simple app. Now I have at least two big dependencies. But hold on, how do you access the chain? Then you need to trust like a bunch of RPCs. Okay, then probably we need a light client. And this is how Nimbus was born.
Yeah.
So Nimbus now is fully integrated a consensus and execution client on Ethereum, which is very cool because now you can have like both. It's kind of a single binary to run both clients.
That's what I use for my DApp node.
There we go. Yeah. Awesome.
That's actually how I found out about it.
Nice. Excellent. Me too, by the way. Yeah. Also running Nimbus. And actually, it's a very good client for devices like that nodes because it's very light. It's very effective.
Yep, that's actually why.
It uses resources in a very performant way, and it was built for that. Because initially, the goal of Nimbus was to deliver the first light client for Ethereum to be able to run the Status app.
Yeah.
That was kind of the original mission.
That was it, yeah.
So there we go, like 7 years later, we have like all that kind of wide range of projects. And Keycard I really like Keycard. I think it has a big future in the industry. And Keycard was kind of the latest addition to the stack of like, hey, we are kind of secure enough, but now we need to have even more security. How does it work? Then probably hardware is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And this is how.
Yeah, I think hardware wallets is like, really overall as a users or end users, we all compromise on the privacy stack at some layer essentially. Wallets, there's a lot of compromises that go into wallets. You're trusting Ledger, you're trusting that when it got sent from like the manufacturing to you in the mail, did it get tampered with? Like the software itself, like also isn't getting tampered with. Like we saw today, like the front end to Aerodrome got, hacked or whatever. Like back early on when I was getting into the space, we used to have to verify software updates with, there would be a PGP like hash that would get updated with it. And then you would check that it was the same PGP cache of the person that created it. And you're like, cool, that means it's been like blessed and I can download it and use it. I feel like we lost a little bit of that along the way, when we were trying to get to onboard like, the
better UX, and then people just
Yeah.
don't really care about security that much anymore. And to a point, I think Ledger helped the space because it was a way to improve everyone's security and make people more conscious about, you need to have a hardware wallet. But now, because they were so focused on the UX and onboarding, I think at the most quasi-philosophical level, they kind of lost a bit of the objective. And so now, I think I haven't updated my ledger in a while because I started to be afraid of the latest updates of software. It's hey, if I do it, will Ledger suddenly have access to some shards of my keys?
Correct, yeah.
Will they actually be able to do things with it? And I don't know if you remember, but when they launched that feature of the seed recovery, or I don't know how they call it.
Yeah, I forget the official name of it, but I know what you're talking about, yeah.
It was crazy because this is when people were like, hey, hold on. They're not supposed to have access to it, but now just with the software updates and I click a few buttons, they do have access to it.
Correct.
So what's
Did they always have access to it?
Did they always have access?
That's the thought that comes into your head. Even if they don't, the thought crosses your head.
Exactly. And so even if I think they're a very trustworthy team and they're not scammers or anything, of course.
Yeah.
But they do, just because of the sheer amount of code that goes into their wallets. At each new release, I'm kind of more and more afraid of the level of trust that I need to put into that.
Yeah.
Because each additional feature that they add to their wallet or to the interface just adds dependencies. It adds vectors of attack. It adds maybe a supply chain issues going forward. And I think this is with Keycard, the team took the exact opposites in terms of philosophy. How can we make it the most simple, most straightforward, most open source, air-gapped, stateless wallets?
Yeah.
So that you can download the next upgrade of the firmware, but it's not going to add anything. It's just probably going to patch a few things, add a new chains, but it's always going to be focused on simplicity and on minimizing the amount of bloatware that you can put into that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and it, like you said, it's open source too, so someone could fork it and create a different version that's less bloated. It's up to you guys. It's up to the community, essentially.
Yes.
The community can add enhancements to it if they want. Yeah, I mean, even with the C signer, I've seen people modify it so it actually can support Java cards as well too.
Yes.
So that's the great thing about when it's open source like that. Okay, for status specifically, where is your brain at in terms of Aztec coming online, or all these other more, I guess from the outsider's perspective, more privacy-centric chains. And you guys are now, it sounds a little bit like you're taking the Zcash approach, where there's you can activate privacy if you'd like, or you can kind of run pure ClearNet, public, kind of with Zcash with shielded transactions and non-shielded transactions. Yeah, where is your brain kind of as Aztec is coming online and other, hyped ZK-powered L2s are coming on?
Yeah.
Where do you see you guys fitting in that whole equation?
Yeah, so a couple points here. First, I'm actually extremely bullish on Aztec. I have been using it since the initial Aztec Connect, so ZK Money. I am now a validator.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, yes, I think the tech that they've built is just amazing. It's if you want to build a fully private L2, there are probably not many other ways than what they did. Of course, they have their own language, Noir. They have a bunch of design choices that they made along the way that might be, not everyone necessarily agrees with. Yeah, exactly. That's the term. So to be honest, I don't really see them as a competitor, in the sense that in our user research, one of the clearest message that I received was, that was done a year ago, right? And it was hey, look, I'm an American. I can't use any privacy thingy because I don't want to get tracked down by OFAC, SEC, and I don't know which other three-letter agency. So the ability to offer both interfaces, both the public and the private interfaces within the same blockchain, I think is something very powerful. This is already something that we're seeing on the L1 with Railgun and with other wallets, or other privacy solutions that are coming up. But the way we want to build it, again, is in a very vertically integrated manner. And I think this is going to be a big differentiator, in the sense that Aztec, for example, doesn't have a wallet. It doesn't have a hub. It doesn't have the whole kind of integration that I was talking about.
Correct.
And this is...
And that will take a lot of R&D and a lot of time to even
take them.
point,
I mean,
yeah.
and where's the value for them? Not necessarily like here immediately, right? They can just say, look, this is not a priority. We just want to focus on the chain, which is what they've been doing for like the last 7 years or so. So I think it's fine. It's just that from our point of view, there is a world where Base and World are not the main apps or super apps. And we have some privacy alternatives to that, or privacy-focused alternatives. And that's basically what we want to build, is the super app that offers communication, browsing,
Communities too.
communities,
Yeah, that's what got me. Okay, you guys.
swaps, and so on, all privately. But it's also open source, which, for example, the World app isn't. The Base as well, it's not open source. Which again, it's fine, right? And I'm not here to criticize or anything. I'm more here to like analyze a bit what everyone has been doing and how we are thinking in terms of our own go-to-market strategy, but also our own value proposition. And we think that, yeah, there is clearly a demand for very simple app to use that already integrates pretty much everything you need to interact with a public chain, but where you also have the choice to go private and have some good enough level of privacy there. So I was talking about like the go-to-market. Something that changed a lot for us in the last few months is thinking about go-to-market, not just in terms of apps, but also in terms of assets. So from an L2 perspective and from an ecosystem perspective in general, apps are really cool because they bring in new developers, they bring in new use cases, they bring in users, and ultimately they bring activity. The thing is, we are a gasless chain. And so we don't really care about activity on chain. What we care about is two things. First, TVL, because we earn revenues through the bridged yield from L1 assets that are bridged to the L2. And second, we also earn revenues through the native apps. And so we're going to have a native DEX, native CDP stablecoin, native lending market, native token launchpad. That native privacy layer that I was talking about is also kind of part of the native apps. And all of them, they are going to have their own revenue streams and their own way of capturing fees. And basically, to become a native app, they will need to give out some of those fees to the chain.
Yeah.
So what I do care about is TVL or yield-bearing TVL and volume. If you create a game that has a lot of interactions but doesn't require users to have assets or doesn't require users to do swap or any kind of sort of DeFi interaction, then as a chain, it's going to be very hard to kind of perceive value out of that.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's kind of a larger discussion about the business models of chains, but specifically of L2, where, I mean, if you look right now, you take kind of a high-level view of the ecosystem, only 2 L2s are profitable, Base and Arbitrum. That's pretty much it. I'm not sure like there's a third one that is profitable at the moment.
I don't think so. I know those two for sure.
Yeah, those two for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure no one else. Why? It's because gas fees have become so low that you need to have a massive volume just to make up for, just to make some revenue.
The liquidity in both is very deep too.
Yeah, so that helps, of course. But so if you look at Base, there was a research from Flashblocks from like a few months ago. I think it's over the summer. I think they made that research where they were showing that 85% of Base block space is basically filled with bots. And why? Because that was the meme coin, shitcoin mania on Base. And what was happening, and by the way, this is exactly what happened with Jesse token. Literally the same happened.
It got sniped, yeah.
It got sniped. But how do they snipe it? Is basically they listen to the contract, but it's not like on Ethereum where you listen to the contract and if you see something, then you will send your transaction. What they do is, because the gas is so cheap, they are definitely okay to have failed transactions. And so they just spam every block in the hope that in that block, one token will be released. And they will be the first one to.
And they only need to hit it once. Exactly.
If they hit one and the next block they can sell it, it's already net profits because the gas fees are so low that it's not a big issue for them to be profitable if they just hit 1 or 2 good trades once in a while. And so then it kind of begs the question of like, okay, so is it really the best system we can do where gas is extremely cheap so that like spammers can use it without really having any issue, but it doesn't give enough actual revenue to the chain so that it can be sustainable in the long term. And I think a lot of L2s are struggling with that aspect at the moment. And they're kind of in a weird space where they may have activity on chain, they may have liquidity, they may have TVL, they may have actual, volume in their DEXs and so on. but just because they make money only through gas fees, and gas is basically at zero right now, they just don't make any revenue, or very few to pay for the infra, to pay for the team, marketing, audits, and so on and so on. Yeah. So that's why we took that kind of the totally other approach of saying, like, since gas is going to zero, why don't we just get rid of it?
Yeah,
and we replace it by another spam protection system that is actually going to look at each individual wallet and how much they are spamming the chain. And so what happens in the base case, if we do our system well, and if we through the different iterations that we're going to make, we shouldn't be able to see that.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to just spam and have a bunch of failed transactions.
Exactly, because if you spam too much, you get slashed.
Yeah, that's like a bad behavior.
Yeah, it's a bad behavior.
Yeah.
If you spam respectfully, meaning you're always within your transaction limit, then that's fine. But that's not going to be 85% of the block space.
Yeah.
So this is how we kind of tackling it from kind of a different standpoints to say, look, yeah, sure, transact on chain, like for free, but you need to respect you respect the chain.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, honestly.
Like, yeah. That's pretty much it.
It makes sense. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was one of my thoughts, was like, how do you prevent people going nuts on a gasless chain? The only other chain I have for reference on gasless is Abstract, I believe. So, yeah, that was a great question. I think another thing to go back.
But I think Abstract, they are gasless just through their own wallet system.
I think so.
Which is like a smart contract, and you still need to deposit some tokens to act as a paymaster and so on and so on. So
correct, yeah. Slightly different, yeah.
There are a bunch of iterations already in the past where chains were abstracting the gas. The end user is still paying for it ultimately. Either because they paid fees to an app that is sponsoring the gas fees,
correct.
Or because XYZ, they have done something. But ultimately, it's really a system based on Paymaster and on like smart accounts and so on, or account abstraction. Whereas in our case, it's literally a spam protection mechanism that we slap on top of the sequencer, and that prevents spammy transaction to hit the sequencer. And for that, we use RLN, a rate limiting nullifier, which was the technology developed originally by PSE and with the EF, and that is used in the context of Waku, or like Logos messaging, to prevent spam.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this is where we kind of got the idea from. And remember, I was mentioning like how Logos and Status are kind of two sister companies, and we share resources and so on.
Yeah.
Well, that initial research came out of Logos, and when we saw, okay, we want to build a gasless chain, what are the like spam protection mechanisms that exist on the market?
Correct.
Well, turns out RLN is a pretty good one. And
if it works here, like messaging, then yeah. Interesting. Okay. I do like that, the synergies between the two groups. That actually helps a lot, because I heard about Status first, and then I found out about Logos after. And then I was trying to figure out the relationship there. Going back a little bit to what you were saying earlier regarding like you could choose to go private on the chain or public, I think we've gotten really good validation from. So I used to be a Monero maxi for a long time. I thought I needed a chain that needed to be fully, private, end to end, whatever. And then like in the last year or so, I've been leaning more into the Zcash side of how they approach it, with like the public and the private living all on one chain. So I think you have really good validation from that perspective, and also focusing on the user experience on the whole verticalness stack. For a long time, I didn't like any of the Zcash wallets until I found out Zashi. And Zashi makes
good experience. Yeah.
It's a really good experience for using Zcash.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are going in the right direction there.
Yeah. We basically looked at a lot of wallets, a lot of apps, a lot of chains, how they do things, and giving people the choice with a clear incentive to go in one direction. So far, it's going to go private.
Yeah.
Is a way to respect the user also, not to like force them through a path that they don't necessarily want to go to, but give them the option with a very strong suggestion along with monetary incentives to go in that direction. And actually, I'm talking about incentives because that's one of the reasons from my point of view that privacy is not that adapted or that adopted so far compared to where we could be, is because all the privacy solutions so far had no way for tokens to earn yield.
Yeah.
The best iteration we had was privacy pools, releasing STETH pools, and I think they have also USDS or SUSDS, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so that's the best you can do. Okay, so that's cool, but that's actually not a lot. And by the way, this is not composable, meaning you just have your cash sitting there, gathering like privacy, it's cool, but it's earning a very basic yield, and I can't use it as collateral. I can't borrow against it. I can't do anything with it.
Correct, yeah.
So that's also kind of our direction, is to say we want to create an experience where you can access regular DeFi apps from the privacy pool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You want to interact with them through shielded EOA, for example.
Yeah.
Then right now it's not possible to do it. It's just like it doesn't exist. There's no solution in the market for that. So that requires kind of a deeper thinking about how the chain, the app, the UX all work together.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're able to deliver a good experience to the users.
And we can see that there's demand for that too. You're able to see now, like online, like a lot of people going from Solana to Zcash via like near intents and stuff like that. So like, I think the demand now that Zcash and I think Monero stayed kind of relatively normal in its price, because privacy is becoming such a thing. I mean, like right now we're in the middle of the privacy space at DevCon or DevConnect. I think we are going to see like hopefully a renaissance of DeFi with privacy, preserving either Zcash or just like the protocol overall, like mechanisms of making money privately.
Yeah, I mean, literally right before talking with you, I spent 2 hours with the Linea team. So Stateless Network is based on the Linea stack. It's a ZK VM, fully compatible with EVM. And so when talking about privacy, it's always a very interesting discussion because how private do we want to go? Our current view of it is, well, if we have privacy layer, kind of a privacy pool that you can interact from with different DeFi protocols, then you're already covering like most of the use cases.
Okay.
The main issue, I would say, is that when you interact with those public apps, you touch the public state. And if you touch the public state, then that reveals metadata around your activity.
Correct.
Even if you do it from Gasless shielded EOA, or if you do it directly from the privacy pool, the reality is that will leak some information. But at the same time, building private DEX is a whole other type of problem. Because how do you reveal the state? How do you reveal the price? How do you reveal the size?
Yeah.
How do you reveal the depth or liquidity?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of solutions.
Those metadata pieces can be used in some kind of way.
Yeah,
to, like,
exactly.
To pinpoint anything, really.
At some point, I need to buy. If I make a swap, I need to buy. So what am I going to receive? Can I already estimate how much I'm going to receive?
Yeah. Exactly.
Without revealing who is going to be my counterparty. But in an AMM, for example, it doesn't work like that because AMMs need to have full reading, at least the reading of the states.
Yeah, exactly.
To be able to know like the price. This is how much token X into the pool and how much token Y, and then so the price is at price Z. Well, okay, in a private pool, how do you know price Z? You don't know X and Y. So I think this is kind of the next really cool iterations that we're going to see, both on Stateless Network and Linea, because we're exploring those ideas, but also on chains like Aztec and all the others that kind of are working towards privacy-focused solutions. As you mentioned, I think we're going to see whole new sets of privacy-focused protocols in DeFi that are going to enable fresh new use cases. An example, making donations to causes can be problematic. Like, I don't know, I'm based in the country and I'm supporting for example, I live in Canada, right? There's always been a lot of interactions with the native communities and a lot of advocacy can be done there, a lot of activism maybe. Well, okay, maybe I want to go donate to some causes. How do I do it privately? Well, I can probably go through Zcash or Monero or these kind of solutions, sure. What I would really want to be able to do is to deposit a bunch of tokens in a pool or in a lending protocol or just stake them, and all the yields that is created by that position gets privately delivered to a donation wallet. And this way, I'm not getting into trouble with, I don't know, maybe my government that doesn't really like that type of activism, right? Other use case would be like, I want to be able to raise funds privately. I want to be able to borrow privately. So I have like a public position, but I want to be able to take a borrowing to take debt on that from an external EOA that has never been linked to my main wallet.
Correct. Yeah.
So and here I'm just like literally like just scrapping the bottom of what we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
There is like a lot of things that can happen and it's just very early. We are like, I mean, my team and I were like super lucky to be here at that moment because we know that this is the moment where a lot of new solutions are going to come on. and we will see an explosion of new use cases, of new technologies that are going to be dedicated to new privacy-focused DeFi protocols for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and the technology is getting better, like ZK Passport now getting leveraged from NASDAQ, so I think privacy overall is on the up and up, and the tech's going to get better, the protocols are going to support each other in some kind of way. Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what brings 2026 is going to bring for Status, eShell, the whole stack, it got me to download the apps.
Yeah.
The things that happened, I was like, I don't need another hardware wallet. I ended up getting one. I was like, I don't need another iOS app to download. That's a wallet. I downloaded Status. Yeah, it worked on me. I'm probably the right audience for it. So
probably.
Thanks for sitting down with me and chatting with me. And hopefully 2026 will be, the meetings that you had here today or this week lead to some.
Yeah, that should have very positive impacts in the coming month.
Awesome.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, man.